We do have a number of people on the call, and what I think we'll do is just kind of get underway, and I'm sure Eli and Mayor Sullivan will join us. So good afternoon. I'm Chris Cooney with the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. This is our 24th week, if you can believe it, of COVID recovery calls. We've been live on these calls about 18 of those weeks, taking some weeks off during the summer. This was our longest time away, and we were hoping that by today we would have a new phase 4 stimulus package to talk about. I think we're all looking forward to that day. You saw yesterday the Senate voted a plan. What I will cover is what they've all said reassuringly is that the unemployment will be extended. That extra 600 will be, well, everyone's agreed to at least 300 through December in all three plans. The governors, the House, and the Senate, all three have extended that through the end of this year at $300 a week. Obviously, we hope that that makes it into the final legislation, and we are being told by the U.S. Chamber that they are very hopeful there will be a deal by the last day of September, because otherwise we may have to shut the government down again. There won't be a budget for the next fiscal year, which starts October 1st. So we stay tuned. I know there's a lot of, what do they say? You don't really want to see sausage made, but it tastes pretty good. So this is what we're hearing every day is this sausage making, but what we're trying to glean is the nuggets of positivity that they are working towards a compromise. With that said, I know we've received many calls and questions about the $300 per week unemployment for your employees and for your family and for your neighbors and whatnot. We were told today by the state of Massachusetts that those who have not already received the $300 per week extension from the last week of July will receive a payment, either direct deposit or a check will be produced on Tuesday. I think Margaret and I just heard that, right, from Secretary Acosta. She confirmed that those payments will be one payment, not $300 per week, but one payment of $1,800, which is equivalent to 6 weeks, issued on Tuesday. So that's really good information. Margaret, you'll get into it and further up on that as we go along in the agenda. So I did want to take just a moment of silence for 9/11. Today is 9/11, of course. A lot of us remember where we were at that time. So let's take a moment of silence for all those souls that were lost, including many from Massachusetts. Thank you very much for that. Want to acknowledge that Q&A, as always, is down below. You can either post questions for our panelists down below or in the Q&A or the chat area. Our panelists have been great about answering and posting resources to both those areas, so please do so. We are recording this. It'll be posted on our COVID recovery page, and you can go back and listen to it or share it with others if you'd like. We're excited to have with us the folks from the mayor's office, we hope shortly, as well as MOBD, Massachusetts Office of Business Development, and the Small Business Administration. We are also delighted to have with us Sue Murray from Seed Corporation. We've talked with them before, and we've heard about some of their programs. They service this area. They're SBA lenders. And then in addition, we have Ben Stein, who's with SMBX, exciting, innovative way for small businesses and investors to link together and help small businesses. So normally I start with the mayor, but I see he's not on here.
I'm on.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. You saved me at the very last moment.
No, I just was listening and learning, as I always do. No, thank you. Thanks, Chris, and everything you do with the Metro South and your team over across the street. Good to see Margaret again. It's weeks and weeks, but it's very rewarding. And the feedback that I'm getting here in the city of Brockton and also throughout the county is that the information we're sharing is making a difference. So information that I'll share with you today is that City of Brockton's latest numbers on COVID, 283 loss of life. So we have lost 283 Brocktonians to this virus. Current active cases, we have 90 Brocktonians dealing with current positive cases. And then overall, the total case is 4,681 overall. Good news is we're no longer in a red classification. Of course, the standards are 8 and above is red class, and between 7.9 and 4, you're in yellow, and anything under 4, you're in green. So this morning I had a conversation with Dr. Rick Herman, my medical consultant, and also Dr. Eno Mondesor, who I just hired to lead up the Board of Health. He's a Haitian American with a master's in public health from BU and a doctorate in counseling. So he's a new team member here, and he's going to do yeoman's work, and we look forward to him. But we're at 6.3. So we are trending in the right direction in terms of the color codes. But as Dr. Herman advised me, we could flip back up in a second to red. So we need to continue to do all the efforts that we're doing. My mandatory curfew is still in place here. And I know, I've heard from a few business people that aren't happy about it, but unfortunately my job right now is to make sure that we minimize and mitigate the spread of the virus and make it a healthy community. So we're trending in the right direction. Another thing that I wanted to share is federal census. And it's a broken record from my end, but if we don't get this right, we're penalized for the next decade. We didn't do it right 10 years ago. We need to do it right now. I think as of this morning, we're about 58% return rate. So 3 more weeks, it was extended. We've spent $50,000 on a state grant from the Secretary of State to get out the message, and that's marketing materials, handouts. We've done 36,000 household mailer. We're using the digital billboards on Route 24 and a lot of displays and signage throughout the city of Brockton. So very simple. You can call it in. You can do it online or the old-fashioned mail-in, which I would advise at this time when we only have 3 weeks left. So, people would ask me, well, why is that going to matter? Well, it matters, and we all know this on the call, from a financial component, it'll give us much more federal money, much more. It's going to help our schools and our businesses and our infrastructure. So, again, we got to hit a home run on the census, and we're ahead of the curve on a lot of other gateway communities, but I know we can do better. And then one other thing is CDBG money. So, we got a little shy under $1 million. And again, that's based on the formula. So, 10 years from now, we're going to be getting much more for the next 10 years because we're going to do it right this time. But I just wanted to share with you, again, the business assistance, which is administered through the BRA, Robert Jenkins at the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, and Sheila Sullivan Jardin across the street at Mass Hire. They have business assistance, and it's free. It's $10,000 grants. So we have to really utilize every single penny. So I plead to any small business or any business in the city of Brockton, if you're interested, please apply. Look at the city website, look at the BRA website or Sheila's website. So let's work together to maximize maintaining businesses. The last piece of information is we all know what happened the night of June 2nd here in the city of Brockton with vandalism and violence, and the Dunkin' Donuts that was vandalized and actually torched. It was arson. There will be a ribbon cutting ceremony, the reopening later this month. It's an unbelievable endeavor that they're doing, and it's a good, really good endeavor for Brockton and the neighboring communities, especially when we have phase 2 of Trinity teed up, thanks to Governor and Lieutenant Governor. So things are happening. You know this, Chris, and I'm just excited to listen and learn again, as I do every Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks so much. And I just want to reiterate, your decision to keep the construction sites open during this time has really made a difference, a key difference in many of the construction projects going on. So thank you for that. It was nice to be on this call at 1 o'clock and hear that Brockton was not in the top 10 list this week for infections. So, I know it's tough medicine for some of us that you've been administering, but it's making a difference, and it's getting the numbers down and going in the right direction, which will allow us hopefully to get, back to more to normal and quicker than other cities and folks that are ignoring the shutdowns and whatnot. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Want to move on to Margaret. Margaret, I know you were on that call as well an hour ago. Very informative. There was another call this morning too, and I'm going to see what you cover. And if you don't, I'm just going to jump in with some additional numbers. So go ahead.
Okay, you got it. No, and we appreciate, Chris, you're always such a strong advocate to be in participating, representing the Metro South Chamber with Secretary Keneally on his now bi-weekly calls. And I'm glad that they're actually now aligning with your calls so we can give you some pertinent information. So well played to you. As you referenced, Secretary Acosta also participates in Department of Labor and Workforce Development. She referenced the Lost Wages Assistance Program and how that's being handled. As you know, that was different than the typical UI. It was funded through FEMA. This Commonwealth had to apply each week, and there were 6 weeks of funding that we are receiving. If you have are filed under the pandemic unemployment assistance, you've received up to 5 weeks as one more week. The 6 week for you will be paid on Monday. If you are a traditional unemployment claimant, all 6 weeks in one payment is arriving on Tuesday. So make sure to look out for that. And then as you were referencing what happened. So as of now, this extra $300 had a 6 week funding window and is not funded going forward until we hear from the federal delegation. So this was made, as you see, the payment retroactive till the funding was awarded. What to anticipate, we won't know, but I know that the Metro South Chamber will have us here when we have that information for you. So that's the unemployment update from Secretary Acosta. Other updates this week, I was up too, glad to see that Brockton is in the yellow. We are, as the Commonwealth, upping our COVID intervention and enforcement and really targeting communities that are in the red and that are hardest hit with messaging enforcement. And again, it's about compliance, educating the public, and it is clear and evident that the good work that your businesses and your residents are doing in Brockton, that your data is trending in the right direction. But let's not be complacent. Make sure that we are following those good COVID compliant behaviors. Other updates, the restaurant dining, the restaurant industry was really, many had pivoted and created outdoor spaces and are using public spaces. That had a sunset date in the executive order of November 1st. This week, Governor Baker did update his executive order and extended that. So the outdoor dining in retail and whatever has pivoted to non-typically permitted spaces will continue to 60 days past the end of the state of emergency. So that is able to continue. And there was a lot of conversation on the call about what we're going to do about outdoor heaters and tents. And as we knew, Chris, on the call, it's two sides to the tent is considered outdoors. So as Brockton and your restaurants are planning to continue those operations, and I'll just be adjusting, our consumer behavior. So bring your fuzzy blanket as the weather tapers so that you can continue to enjoy your restaurants and really help us make the best of it, because we're seeing a lot on the news about some of these restaurants, particularly in the urban areas, that are closing up, and we want to be supporting those that we're able to. And other activity as far as reopening the economy, the news this week is the gaming and the arcades. And I know that's such a seasonal, particular industry with summer vacations. Kids have a little bit more time this year, but those are slated to now open on September 17th. And then also somewhat beneficial to the tourism industry, the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism is running the My Local MA campaign, mylocalma.com. We have a toolkit for businesses, and we're really looking to encourage businesses to download the logos to the flyers, encouraging consumers to use that hashtag when they're at your places, hashtag MyLocalMA, and spreading the message. Where can we, Massachusetts residents, spend our money locally? How do we support what's in our backyard? In one of the weeks I had had one of those like virtual backgrounds from the Fuller Craft Museum, right? What is it that's special about Brockton in the Metro South region? What are those locations that we can be helping advocate through the social media channels, through Find My Local MA? So want to make sure that your businesses are aware of those resources and the good advocacy that all of the chambers are doing throughout your day-to-day operations, right? Like that is what the chamber is great about, and the Metro South Chamber in particular has been a leader in the Commonwealth all through COVID, and in particular just the timeliness and consistency of your information and who you've been able to connect for resources. So Sue Whitaker unfortunately is not able to join us today, but Sue and I are always here, always welcome your members to reach out to us directly. And I know that Brockton, I believe, was a recipient of the Shared Streets Grant Program. The governor did announce additional funding. So Mayor Sullivan, I can reach out to Rob and planning for you on that if you'll be putting in for an additional round of funding. They did announce that this week as well. So that has been a very successful program and something that we were able to invest in municipalities and helping get the businesses extended into some of the public areas. So happy to work with your administration on that.
Thank you, Margaret, for the update. Appreciate that. Something else I'll share just along the state lines is I was on a call bright and early this morning, and they were talking about how the state was anticipating $6 billion shortfall. Real quick update is that they're now predicting about a $3 billion shortfall, and that revenues are coming in almost all areas ahead of what they budgeted. So I don't know if that was really awful budgeting, or I mean, in terms of expecting awful results, or whether things are bouncing back a little bit better. I think it's probably a combination, and that's a little bit of good news. And I like to kind of cling to that good news and share that if possible. Yeah. So I want to go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, you know what, a lot of the feedback, I'm on the Cape Cod Reopening Task Force, and a lot of them had said, geez, as you were getting into this, what to expect and how did we fare? And I don't know if people really, to your point, really put low estimates as to low bar as to what to expect, and then the reality of where they are coming in. It's not in a good position, but it's better than expected. So take that for the silver lining, and I appreciate your points there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to jump over to Eli from the Small Business Administration. Eli, how's it going? I know we're all anticipating this phase 4. I know we're not there yet. We did hear from Bob Nelson today, and he really just stuck with, the Small Business Week, which has been rescheduled from May till September, and talk a little bit about that. But welcome back, and how are you?
Doing great, Chris, and hope everybody's doing well as well. And again, great to be here with you all. Definitely appreciate being part of this great, session that you put together, for all this many months. Can't believe it. It's going to be almost 6 months that this whole pandemic really hit, and it doesn't seem like it's letting up either. As you mentioned, Congress is gearing up for another, stimulus packet, or thinking about it, and talks are, there's talk about again, additional action. But as you know, the agency does not comment on proposed legislation, and it really is pointless and futile to talk about something that you don't know how it's going to end up being voted on, and what additional changes are going to be made. But we are anticipating additional assistance for small businesses. I don't have any slides today. Of course, I don't want to bore you with all the numbers that that I've shared time and again with the group. But on a couple of fronts, I did want to touch base. So first and foremost, on the Paycheck Protection Loan programs. Again, the objective of the CARES Act, what Congress intended with it, was to have 100% of those PPP loans forgiven to small businesses. So we are, it's over a month now that we opened the portal to our lenders, so banks, credit unions, fintechs who participated in the PPP loan program. They are accepting forgiveness applications. Not all lenders are, but the majority of them are online. Okay, and mind you, we've got 5,500 lenders. So the good majority of them are accepting applications. It's working well as far as we've been told. The feedback from the lenders. So our portal is working perfectly fine. There have been no issues with it. As far as payments issued, we haven't seen any payments issued by the Treasury yet, even for the loans that were submitted 4 weeks ago. So we will, we're telling folks now that it's going to take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks for those lenders, to get the first, decision approved and funds in their bank accounts for the various PPP loans. But again, for the small businesses, there is no real hurry, right? So all PPP loans have 10 months of deferment after the end of the covered period. So if somebody got a loan in April, they choose the 24-week window. That 24-week window takes them 6 months, right, out. Then they have 10 additional months of deferment and time to submit the loan forgiveness application. So no real hurry. Again, a lot of businesses want this done and over with and behind them. But like I said, some legislation is expected. So I would highly encourage, folks not to rush, especially if they cannot document the proper use of all the funds. So they would get, 100% forgiven. So, excuse me, on the economic injury disaster loan front, we are still accepting applications. So that program is available. There's still funding, but a quick update. So we have received, to date, a little over 14 million applications on that program. So just to put it in perspective, there's approximately 29 million small businesses in the nation, right? And that is, well, over 45% of those small businesses have, applied for an EIDL loan. We have funded a little over 4 million of those applications. So there's still 10 million applications, that are in the process, in the queue, and getting funded. But we have exhausted half of the funding available. So unless Congress really reauthorizes some additional funding, then, some of those applicants may not, receive an EIDL loan. And the agency is looking closely at perhaps reducing the size of this next round of loans from 150 to a lower number. So no official word on that yet, but it's all dependent on what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I mean, as you said it earlier, this is the end of the fiscal year, and we need a budget. We need an approved budget, on the president's desk, for his signature by September 30th, or else we risk, we risk another shutdown. So no one wants that. The debt relief, that's the last, program I want to touch base on. So the debt relief is still, working for those small businesses that have SBA loans. They're getting 6 months worth of payments made by the agency. If the banks or credit unions, that have extended that credit, have provided them deferment for the summer months and late spring, they will still get 6 months of principal and interest, right, after the deferment period. So borrowers don't need to do anything. The SBA is picking up the tab, making those payments for 6 months. For those that have exhausted, right, the 6 months worth of, or are close to exhausting the 6 months worth of principal and interest payments, and they did not modify their loans, or they did not ask for a deferment, we're highly encouraging our lenders to work with those small businesses to provide those deferments and modifications. Okay, so our 7A lenders, our 504 lenders have full, guidance how to proceed with deferments, so they could do up to 6 months of deferments in-house. And, that definitely carries most of the small businesses, well into 2021. So we're hoping, legislation is going to get passed soon, and we'll find out what additional assistance is going to be available to small businesses. But again, appreciate, you having me on the call, and I'll stay on the call till the end of it if any questions.
Thank you, Eli. Thanks so much. We'll post down below to the loan forgiveness portal so that you can, as members and businesses, know where to go to get your loan forgiven for PPP and additional information on the IDL. We're still encouraging folks to get your paperwork together for this phase 4, because we are sure something's going to happen. It's going to happen rapidly once it's approved. So it's a great segue to Sue Murray. Sue Murray runs the SBA certified lending organization that serves all of our region, Seed Corporation. Welcome. She comes to us from Citizens Bank and from a 30-year history of working with small businesses and lending and such. Sue, you and I were on a networking call like a week ago, and we were talking, or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about some recent changes and developments. And one of them was like a 2%, 2.85% maybe interest rate on was it a 20-year loan? Can you tell us a little bit about what's new with SBA and Seed Corporation in terms of these loans?
Absolutely. It's actually all great news. And Eli, I have a great segue into, I can tell you how much or how appreciative our small business clients are for those covered payments. The CA guarantee and the micro loans literally saved many, many, many businesses from going out. So they are approaching the end of the covered payment with the next payment. And we do anticipate really having to do some deferments, payment restructures with them to keep them going over maybe the next 3 to 6 months, really, until we get through a little bit more of this. But super exciting news is that the 504 rates, I think, Chris, that's what we were talking about. This is real estate or equipment finance, refinance, acquisition, expansion. Right now for this 504 program, which is a partnership between a bank and Seed, you can get 25-year money for 2.45%. So that is just unheard. That's basically free. And the 20-year money is 2.34. The 10-year for equipment purchases is 2.26. I mean, where can you go wrong with that? So we're really hoping that that can save some people perhaps in the traditional bank setting if they have loan to value issues or payment issues on a traditional loan. They can flip some of those into 504s. We've made our board aware of that, and also calls like this to get the word out. It's really a good time to consider that. And then more exciting news is that Seed was just awarded a $3.6 million CARES Act grant under the EDA program. So this is, so a piggyback onto the EIDL loans, Eli, you were just mentioning you've approved 4 million applications. You won't get to them all, definitely, until the money runs out. Even if someone has an EIDL loan or a PPP, that doesn't preclude them from applying with us for federal EDA money. And that can be used for really any purpose whatsoever, as long as it's not a duplicate of an EIDL or a PPP loan. So it can be debt refinance of high interest credit cards, maybe some short-term cash flow needs. We can extend out some payments on some short-term loans. We can do gap financing. It's meant for, this 3.6 million is earmarked for businesses that were profitable prior to COVID and are now really hitting some hard times. So anyone that falls into that category, this fund can cover some of those loan requests. And then if you don't fall into that, we have, of course, 7 or 8 other loan funds that can really help most people, I think, that come to us. So credit, collateral, cash flow, all challenges in times of this pandemic, and hopefully we'll be able to help a lot of people tough this out. So I encourage anyone, I can put my contact info in the chat box. And if anyone has questions, definitely give us a call or email us.
So I want to thank you so much on behalf of the business community for really pursuing all of the opportunities that you have with SBA and with the federal government and the local banks to really create some opportunities for our small businesses. It's going to take all of this, as you say. There's not going to be enough money at this point to satisfy all of the need. And so thank you, and thanks for posting your resources down below. Hope to have you back.
Thank you, definitely.
So with this void, there's an opportunity, and Ben Stein is with us from SMBX. Ben spent some time working with Square and also Open Door, creating an innovative, technology-driven link between people that have money to invest in small businesses and entrepreneurs that are looking for startup that may not qualify for some of the things we talked about today in terms of traditional lending. So I know, Ben, I was reading your bio, and it's great. You grew up, it sounds like your parents owned a summer camp that then was sold, but you probably have some great memories, as we all do, from our youth, right? And it's just so sad that so many of the kids didn't make it to camp this year. But what's that?
You're telling me.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Tell us a little bit about SMBX and where is that intersection that you're seeking to create between investors and small businesses that need the help?
For sure. I think, at SMBX, we are all about figuring out awesome ways to drive private capital from citizens, right? Your customers, your neighbors, right? Your local community into businesses. There are a bunch of great resources around for folks. We've heard a bunch of them already coming from the SBA, coming from banks. You've got GoFundMe's and Kickstarters and a bunch of, various opportunities out there. SMBX is, another solution that for the right business is a good fit. And our goal is to allow folks to invest right in small businesses. We were talking earlier on the call about, I love MA, right? It would be great to facilitate a very simple way for folks who do love their community to put cash into small businesses that are local. But instead of donating that or giving that away, as you do with the GoFundMe, the goal is you can lend a lot more. I do this kind of analogy, if I want to support my local ice cream shop, I can only buy so much in gift cards. I can't buy $1,000 worth of gift cards, right, to a small business if I'm not going to, plan on spending that over the course of a year or two. But what I can do is I can lend $1,000. And so what at SMBX we've done is we've created a way to allow community members to invest in a small business, and they get monthly principal plus interest returns back.
Great. So I know you and I were talking, and I introduced you to a couple of folks, George Durante with the state, and also Robert Jenkins with the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. I understand you had a pretty productive conversation in terms of the nuts and bolts of how this works. And one of the examples is a brewery, right? Brockton just tentatively agreed to have a brewery open in the city. Those are not really always allowed by some of the programs we're talking about today. So can you share us a little bit about how that would work, or some examples of how this works?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna fidget around in my seat because in our house there's a couple different phone calls going on. So I lost the rock, paper, scissors and I'm in the bedroom. But that is the joy and challenges of working remote and what we face today. To walk you through what a process for a small business working with SMBX would look like, a brewery or a retail store, maybe it's a restaurant, a bar, comes to SMBX and we put them through what's called a preliminary assessment. That takes about 48 hours where we look at the financial history of a small business, make an underwriting decision and come back to them with terms that represent something very similar you'd see from a bank, right? How much money you qualify to raise, an interest rate, and then the maturity of that loan, which we can then, backtrack and calculate out what a monthly payment would look like in total interest paid. If that works for the small business, which, we do our best to make sure it does, especially in these times, we will sign a letter of commitment, and then we go through and we kick off two different streams of work. The first is we use an engineered financial security called a small business bond. And so we will go and create and file with the SEC a set of bonds that we are going to issue to the community. And our operations team takes care of all of the work of doing that. And what that allows the small business to do is accept investments in as little as increments of $10. So each one of these bonds is $10, right? They hold an interest rate and then you pay back based on how many, bonds are purchased. So our ops team kind of takes care of all that back end work. They'll work with the business to get the financial statements in order, prepare the bond prospectus. We'll work with you on a whole bunch of things on the financial side of, getting ready to share your business to be invested by the public. And then after that, at the same time, our marketing team will work directly with you to think about who you want to invest in your community. What are ways we can get the word out, whether that's working with, folks at the chamber like yourself, putting flyers or a little QR code on a menu. We've done direct mail drops, online advertising, Instagram. We come up with and work with you on a playbook end to end to really facilitate and help drive those marketing activities that, one, generate awareness for you, but two, allow folks to come in and invest and understand the process of what it means to put money into your business. We set up an escrow account for you. Money comes into that escrow account as we launch your offering on our website. Folks invest, you raise your $100,000 or maybe it's $200,000, might be a little bit less. And then close the offering. That money gets transferred directly to the business's bank account. And then the business makes one monthly payment every month from, their bank account to SMBX. And then SMBX takes that money that's coming in, your monthly payment, very similar to a bank loan, and we distribute that out to your customers, to your investors. And so if you bought 10 bonds, you get a little bit less than if you bought, 100 or 1,000. And every month, your customers are getting this awesome reminder, right, of why to show up, why to like, why to retweet, why to share, why to do all those things to support a business, right? They're financially invested in your success and in your continued, work, because they've got, even if it's 10 or 15 bucks in it, right? They've built that relationship together. They're bondholders.
So we've seen examples of this without the technology piece going back to the 80s. I remember when Narragansett Brewery wanted to reopen in Rhode Island, and a lot of beer drinkers said, I'll buy some stock or whatnot, and to get the capital to have the company start up, and then issue dividends, if in that case. Are we talking? This sounds a lot like an investment type stock offering, if you will, in a particular business from investors. So you've got two folks you're dealing with. You're dealing with, and you've been focused on the small business who needs lending. But what about people who just want to maybe invest $100,000 in small businesses in Brockton because they feel like it's the right thing to do? And as you say, they're not necessarily going to go buy gift cards in that way, but they want to help the community. How does that work? And is it without risk and that type of thing?
Yeah, for sure. No investment is without risk, right? That is first and foremost the most important thing. Whether you put money in the stock market, I make this joke of, if Howard Schultz is on his way to work, there's no guarantee that he's going to make it there, right? If you buy Starbucks stock that morning, there's a chance it goes down. Our goal with small business investing was we looked at what it means to invest locally today and how difficult that is, right? In order to invest in a small business, you have to invest on the equity side. And because of that, right, it has to be a larger amount. You have to invest $25,000 because a small business owner doesn't want to deal with all of the overhead to get you involved for $1,000 or $500. And so that's why we really focused on the debt side and built this idea of these small business bonds starting at $10, was to lower the barrier of entry for investing locally. I can go and download an app and probably in 30 seconds buy a share of Starbucks. I make this joke. It's easier to buy a share of Starbucks today than it is to buy a venti coffee from them, right? I actually have to go down the line, right? But I can hop on my phone and in 30 seconds be able to invest in Starbucks, right? I connect my bank account, it's done. We believe that same experience should exist for investors. And so what we've done is, as we go through that process of working with a small business, we'll take the financial pieces that are important, and we'll put those out there. And so each investor has a set of resources, depending on how deeply they want to invest, to be able to assess the risk for themselves. We are not an open platform, so it's not like Kickstarter where anybody can come in and set up their project. They have to clear our underwriting and our due diligence pieces to prove that they can, support a loan payment. But we do our best to really focus and tell folks, as best we can to set up those businesses to be the right ones.
So when you and I talked, you said that this conceivable small business could have a bank loan, could have a seed loan, could have an EIDL or a PPP loan, and still ask for funds from you for the marketing piece.
That's right. It's our goal is to be another resource there, right? And the beauty of what I tell folks is we really want what's best for the business, right? And so we have folks who come to us and they say, well, I haven't gotten PPP, I haven't gotten EIDL. We're going to push them towards doing those things first, because the terms of that, right? If you can get forgivable money, you should 100% do that. That should be your first option. But in the event that these things aren't enough or don't get you all the way there, or as what I think we've seen is, we're designing programs for 3 months or 6 months out, but understanding that, this thing isn't going away the way that we thought it might have, or we're having a different trajectory there. When you don't have that certainty there, in the absence of that, exactly what to expect with SMBX, right? We can set up that loan, your monthly payments every month. And what we're trying to do is establish, a relationship with folks who can support that.
I see. So what are some of the biggest pieces of pushback you get from businesses or investors? I mean, they must kind of go, wait a minute, this sounds too good to be true.
For sure. I think the biggest piece of pushback is like the financials being public, right? And folks are very sensitive to that for a number of reasons. It is putting yourself out there and putting your work out there in a way that is tangibly defined in the monetary, aspect of American society today. That's the biggest piece there. What I always talk to folks about is it's a testament to your work, right? And who you are as a business is reflected a portion of that in the finances of that business. But I look at that as more something to be proud of. If you're worried about your competitors looking at your finances and changing things, there's not going to be that level of detail, available in that bond prospectus, if that's really important to you. But more importantly, if you were to look at your competitors' finances, is that really going to change what your roadmap is or what you're working on? The answer more often than not is no.
And so, based on your experience, how much are people investing with this instrument, and do they tell you why?
Great question. We've got two fundraisers that are going on right now. One has surpassed their goal. They were trying to raise 25,000. They just surpassed that this morning. Another business, ice cream shop here with 7 locations. They do really fun flavors. I don't think kids don't think they're fun, but there is a group of people who do think they're fun. Tofu, lychee, purple yam is pretty far out there. Amazing pieces. They're raising 100,000. They're at about 45. We've seen folks come in and put $10 in. And we've seen folks come in and put, 10 or 15 because, they've been with that brand from the beginning. They're supportive. Or, more importantly, they're just looking for good returns. They're offering, 7.5%. That's good money to be made back. And depending on the risk level of that business and what monthly payment they can support, it's an opportunity to give back to the community for businesses that, not all businesses are struggling during the pandemic. Some folks are excelling. And so to the extent we can build a give-take relationship between the community and investors, great way to build wealth on the investor side. But also, we work to get the best rates for small businesses,
So how are those rates set? Is that by the person seeking funds saying what they're willing to pay, or is there some formula?
Great question. The beauty of my job and the role of SMBX is we're not putting our own money in, right? So the idea that I make more because your interest rate is at 8% versus 7%, and I'm trying to negotiate against you because I know every dollar I get you to pay more comes back to me isn't how our business model works. What we're trying to do is really play middleman between your offering and what you want your financial security, and your offering to be for the community, and what we know is going to be attractive. We know that, borrowing $10,000 over 10 years and paying back $10 a month isn't something we can get investors to sign up for. So the way that we really look at that is when we go through that preliminary assessment, that's us coming back in partnership to say, here's what we'd recommend, but let's work through, what you're going to feel comfortable with on the business side, knowing that, if you go too far one way or the other, right, we're not going to be able to fill that offering because it's not going to reflect the risk of investing in your business.
So is there a formula, or do they sit with you as an advisor and figure it out? How does that work?
It's a bit of both. So we've got some traditional underwriting pieces that have been built by, we've got a PhD of finance who's our CEO. We've got an investment banker, former investment banker, who's our CFO. She was head of the biggest bank in Hong Kong, leading risk assessment, over there for, I think, 10, 15 years. And so they have built a model that does do some magic, right? But we're not spitting out interest rates. We're spitting out a risk score. And then we use that risk score to have the conversation with the business based on other businesses around this risk score, right? This is what we think is reflective in terms of the asset, right? Very similar to, not exactly the same as a stock, right? But if you think about how that valuation is, right? The riskier that is, right? The more you should return, right? And the less risky that is, the less you have to pay, because if you can fit this in, right, you should be able to borrow. And so that's kind of how we start that conversation, is looking at the risk of the business, looking at the last 2 years of financials, looking at how things have trended through COVID, starting there, what is the risk moving forward for paying this back? And then having the conversation around where they feel comfortable with their interest rate. If you want a lower monthly payment versus lower overall interest paid, those are two very different structures of a deal. And so we'll work with the business to do what's best for them.
Well, it was fascinating when this came to our attention, and I definitely wanted to learn more about it and share your information with others. I see the phenomenon of Robinhood, right, which came out of nowhere, and I see who's trading on that, and it's really young people who are embracing investing in small business and doing their due diligence and their research and trading stocks. These are people that, at an age that a generation or two ago weren't even thinking about seemingly the stock market. And now, so it seems much more because of the technology and because of the tech savvy young people, that these types of things are being explored. And of course, when you look at the potential for a 7% return or a 9% return, it seems too good to be true. But then you couple that with a generation that was raised on Shark Tank, and they kind of see the trends that are coming, right? They always tell you, buy a stock of the product that you buy if you're 17 or 18, because there's probably a good chance that's going to be a product that's going to be around. I think of a banker I know whose 14-year-old son, killed it with Lucent back in the late 80s and early 90s, right? Eventually went down, but boy, he was the first one in. And he's like, Mom, this is what I'm doing, and this is why. And it was something that he was using the product and really felt strongly that they were an innovative company before a lot of people in their 40s and 50s even knew who they were or what they did. So that's a long way of saying, this at 7, 8, 9%, I could think of people who would be interested in investing, especially if there's a vetting process. And maybe perhaps that it's investing in businesses that are otherwise not bankable or in a certain geographic zip code, because, you have folks that did well in those communities.
Under the bus, it's not just 7, 8, 9, because I don't want small businesses to hear 7, 8, 9% and think that's all. There's certainly like a lower end risk profile business that comes in at 4, 5, 6. But I think what we found is that interest rate doesn't actually change so much the monthly payment or the amount of interest paid. If you look at that over 3 years or 5 years, security piece, that's more. So I don't want you to pigeonhole me as like, up there in those 6, 7, 8%, especially when Sue got to come in with 2% and 3%.
That's right.
You're killed here. You're killing me. But we do think there's a happy medium there, right? And I think you're right that this is, it's 2020, and we asked that question. Folks are ready to invest. They're taking more of their money into their own hands. Whether you're young or folks who are old too, right? Like, now let's not say old. They're experienced in life, right? And the goal is really for us. How do we make small business investing as simple, right? How can we do more than, we always heard this thing, support local business by shopping there, right? And what I think we've realized is shopping there isn't enough. We got to be able to take the next step. We have to have a breakthrough there so that we can really, do more than just spend local. Right? We want to be able to invest locally as well, right? We want to be able to keep money within the community, because when we can keep money within the community, it's spent within the community. And that's really what we're trying to facilitate, is this idea of a financial system where, as I get my monthly payments back from small businesses, around my neighborhood, that money I know is going to be local, right? As opposed to, some of the other alternatives where that just somehow floats out and right into the atmosphere, and it doesn't come back in the same way. And that's really what we hope to accomplish.
So just to underscore, that other piece, which is someone who's received financing from banks and seed and SBA, just to reemphasize, there is some marketing value, right? To be out on the platform and out on the website. And some folks don't have a budget for marketing, but if you sometimes you see companies introduced on the one you just mentioned, the financing, for the purpose of spreading the word and having them link other people to that business. So it's a marketing plan of sorts, or part of the marketing plan. So I would encourage folks to go to SMBX and take a look at the website, see some of the businesses that are featured there and some of the dollars that are being raised and why, and then some of the marketing around that, and make a judgment for yourself. Ben, really want to thank you for being on the call and sharing this. I think as we move along, we all have to be open to how things are changing. And oftentimes I look back on an interview like this and go, that was the genesis of this or this, and that, you know. And so it's good to have you on the call. And it was great to combine that with our traditional lenders and the 245 break. I mean, it's the kind of combination might be nice. So thank you. So we any of our panelists have a lot. I see there's quite a few chat items here. Let me just see if there's some questions coming up soon. Let's see if the RAF program has been highlighted. That's for folks that cannot make their rent or mortgage payment under, I think if you're making under 70,000, so if you've been laid off, that works. Please see that link. Thank you, Emma, for posting that. I'm also not able to scroll on that. Let's see. Too many things here. Let's see. Can you still hear me or see me?
We can do both.
Okay, great. So for some reason I'm off I can't see myself or the information, but because I think I clicked on something. Maybe Lexi, you can fix that from your end. But anyway, so want to thank all of you for being on the call. If there are questions down in the chat, I encourage our panelists to post any answers you have for them. Otherwise, I would ask Lexi to ask some of the questions that I can no longer see for some reason. And we can have those addressed. I will bring up a couple things that are coming up. Next Thursday, we have Secretary of Economic Development, Mike Keneally, on a call. He's going to be participating in a panel on the 17th. That's Thursday at 10 a.m. With the New England Real Estate Journal. We're partnering with them to do a panel on real estate, both commercial and residential, as it relates to COVID and its opportunities that are presented, and the changes that are looming on the horizon for real estate, and whether there's opportunities for the Metro South region, either Route 24 or Route 3, the whole Metro South region, and whether we will benefit as a region as a result of that. We've got folks from commercial banking, Rockland Trust. Jerry Nadeau, who's president of Rockland Trust, will be on that call, as well as a couple of tax attorneys who specialize in opportunity zones. And in addition, we've got Jeffrey Anatole, who's done 2 projects in the city of Brockton in the last 18 months. He's going to talk about how he used a lot of the state and federal incentive programs to develop properties here in the city. So I hope you will tune in for that. Every week we do networking. Please check out the Chamber website for times and locations, and register with Lexi so we can get you a Zoom link. Finally, annual meetings coming up. Annual meetings coming up on November 18th. We have the head of the Boston Marathon race director on that. But before that, on October 7th, we have the governor who will be on a Zoom call with us. Beyond that, September 25th, we have another one of these calls. So we hope you'll tune in and be with us for these calls, as we will have Representative Claire Cronin, as well as folks from the Massachusetts Business Strong initiative. And we'll hear about how businesses can receive assistance from that initiative, which was created in cooperation with Eastern Bank, the Boston Chamber, and over 1,000 consultants who are offering free services to small businesses. So with that, I would wish you a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you back here on the 25th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.